Ronald McDonald House has been an institution in the Tampa Bay community for the past 42 years. If you haven't heard of them, that's because you haven't needed their services. They offer 4 houses with 80 bedrooms to families with children receiving treatment in area hospitals. Families stay for free as long as needed. Summer break is the busiest time for the houses. While other families are on vacation and kids are going to camp, the families of sick children are arriving to the Ronald McDonald houses in Tampa Bay daily to have their kids receive medical treatment at area hospitals. Our friends from Ronald McDonald House, well, they're here today, so they're next on Bayside. Welcome to Bayside. I am your host, Shelly Sanders. Like I said in the open, we are talking all about the Ronald McDonald House. I'm sure if you've been through a McDonald's restaurant, you've seen the little box outside the drive-through. Well, those donations, that change that you put in that little box there, it all goes to support these homes. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Citro. You are the Director of Development and Marketing there for the Ronald McDonald Houses. We are so glad to have you guys back on the show. It's been a little bit.
It has been. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. So, huge things that you do for these families.
Sure.
I mean, I can only tell what you do. You can only tell what you do.
Right.
But it goes so much deeper than just providing a room for a family. I mean, this is a very real situation, and it does put it into perspective when you think about the summertime,
Right.
how kids, most families are planning, what are we going to do? Where are we going
Right.
to go? Where's my child going to camp? Daycare situations, whereas life changes for these families. So before we get right into it here on a local level, let's talk about this charity, the Ronald McDonald Houses Charity, how it began, and you've been here for 42 years.
Correct. Yeah. So I'll kind of give a little bit of the history and share a little about kind of more so what we do, as you mentioned, more than a home. So really our history in a short version, we had a family that was up in Philadelphia, how we started kind of globally, and his child suffered from leukemia. And so he said, there's got to be a better way to do this. This doctor said, there's this idea I have. What if we have a house right next to the hospital? That guy, his name was Fred Hill. Fred Hill was the father of the child, and he actually played for the Eagles. Eagles did a big fundraising campaign, raised a bunch of money, and then they said to themselves, hey, we need a little more funds. Let's go to McDonald's. Met with the McDonald's owner-operators. Were able to raise some more funds and then get that first house. And they called it the Ronald McDonald House. That was kind of the agreement. And then here locally, we had one of our founders here, Ed Amin. He's a local McDonald's owner-operator. He was the one that really kind of pursued and found a house in St. Petersburg, actually the first Ronald McDonald House in the state of Florida. And he worked with some of his other owner-operators in the community and Johns Hopkins Hospital, really at that time all children's, to then first kind of have that first Ronald McDonald House, which was literally right outside the hospital campus. It was 1 bedroom. And since then, now we've grown to 4 houses and 80 bedrooms.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So with that amount of space, unfortunately, there are times you even need more space.
Correct.
In a perfect world, we won't need Ronald McDonald Houses anymore, right?
Right. And then unfortunately, the challenge, even during the pandemic, the course of the past 2 years, even during that time, children still are born early. Children are still struggling with various issues. And so the goal is that the Ronald McDonald House can be that home away from home for those families. Right. And really for us, we have families that kind of come from, from near and far. 1 in 4 of our families is from greater Tampa Bay. But more so, really our goal is to provide that support system and just be more than a home, to really be that home away from home in terms of a place to stay, a place to get some food, and also a place to build community during the most challenging times of families' lives.
Sure.
You know, a lot of our families, when they come to us, there's this idea in their head, right, of they're going to have the gender reveal, they're going to have this giant baby shower and all these parties and everything like that, and then they find out that their child's being born early, or that they're having some serious complications or a rare disease they've never even heard of, and that there's a place or there's a doctor that's in Tampa or St. Pete, and we need you to go there. And they end up here and don't really know where to go or what to do. And
Sure.
we're grateful to be that community for that family.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, in the past, when we've had you on, we've even had some of the families, some of the recipients of your incredible charity. And one of the common threads that they had, or the biggest message that they had, was, in this moment, you are at your worst. It's you look around you and in every other situation, and you just see, it seems that everyone is standing out. Like, look at that happy, healthy family. Look at that happy, healthy family. No one can understand what I'm going through right now. I could lose my child, or my child is suffering, and going to that camp. And the one thing everyone has in common is that feeling. And so through that crisis, they were lifted up, and knowing that they weren't alone. They weren't the only ones experiencing these pains and the suffering that they were going through, in addition to having the services that you provide, the home, the meals, etc. With that being said, how many people, with 4 houses and 80 rooms, how many people a year would you say, give or take?
Yeah, we have over 3,000.
That's
and
incredible.
so for us, the family that we define as family is kind of whatever you define family is. Right. So, we do actually house the patients that are in the hospital sometimes that are outpatient. But for us, we're housing the siblings, right? Of course, because most of our families, there's more than one child. And so the siblings are along for the ride. The parents, the grandparents, aunts and uncles, adoptive parents, guardians, kind of whoever a family deems as family, we want to make sure that we have that service for them. And we're, again, the closest facility to the hospital. You can't get any closer to where we are. So for us, that's that goal. And we calculate our patients as 0 to 21. So teens come frequently, especially at our Tampa house. There's a lot of, unfortunately, situations where it's a trauma victim that was involved in, let's say, an accident or something like that. Those families stay with us while their child's getting treatment, for example, at TGH.
Sure, because the medical expenses alone are sometimes devastating to a family, much less it's only compounded when they start to think, oh my gosh, the hospital that treats that condition is out of state or out of my county, or we can't afford to drive that far. And certainly with the way things are going here lately, gas becomes a big issue. So just to have that, a local place to stay that isn't racking up these bills. So it is 100% free for these family members to come and stay at these houses for the duration of time that their child is seeking this treatment.
Correct.
How in the world do you do that?
Yeah, for sure. So
because it cannot be free to you, obviously, right?
Definitely. So for us, really, we rely on the community. I mean, simply put, you talked about our McDonald's piece, which is amazing, and we're a separate entity, but McDonald's is our mission partner.
Sure.
With that being said, the community provides over 80% of our funding that we get on a yearly basis.
Absolutely.
And so we really rely on the community to help us raise these funds. And so, as you mentioned, it's kind of summertime has kind of been here, and for our families, they are navigating through that when they're staying with us.
Sure.
But the community can really jump in by supporting us, going online, calling our phone number there.
And you're looking at that. You at home are looking at that site right now on your screen, with 80% of their budget dedicated and relying upon people like you at home. You see the website right there. They would more than appreciate your donation. That's an understatement. rmhctampabay.org. That's Ronald McDonald House Charities acronym. rmhctampabay.org. Why don't you check it out while we go to break? Welcome back to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelley Sanders. I've been speaking with Joe Citro all about Ronald McDonald House Charities, all the wonderful things that they are doing for families here in the Bay Area and abroad even. The families that come here, y'all are taking care of them, and I can't imagine just in their time of need, 100%. So with all of these families in and out, I can't even imagine how hard it would be if I were to say to you, Joe, tell me a favorite story
Sure.
or something that's inspiring. But I'm sure that happens on the daily with these families and the people that you meet and the children and the success stories and what have you. So do you have anyone there now that you're rallying or championing? I know all of them for sure, but
course.
anything come to mind?
Yeah, I'll use a family, the Dulé family, and so they're actually coming from Texas. They stayed with us. They have a rare condition called congenital diaphragmatic hernia, and so that's probably something the viewers have never heard of before. But there's a doctor here in the area where he specializes in that. And in short layman's terms, when a baby is in utero, right, when the baby's in the mom's stomach, if you will, they find out that there's a hole in the baby's diaphragm, and the organs have jumbled up. And their survival rate's about 50%. But the doctor here, his survival is 90%.
Wow.
And so if you're a parent, to your point, you're going to do some research, you're going to try to figure this out. And so those families, for example, stay with us on average of roughly 3 to 6 months. The moms actually come to us pregnant, they stay with us for a month, and they deliver. And so with that being said, that cost of just living for 3 to 6 months in an area that is foreign to home where you might not know anyone is significant on top of medical bills and other bills. And so a lot of those families tell us, hey, if we didn't have Ronald McDonald House, there's no way we would have been able to get this treatment for our child.
No kidding. And just in the feeling of aloneness, again, coming back to just even the emotional support of being there with other people that understand what you're going through. I understand you also have a little tyke named Diego. Right
yes,
now?
we do.
Tell me about Diego.
So I'll tell you a little about Diego. So Diego is an amazing story. They're actually a local family here from Bradenton. And Diego and his brother really were kind of this pair that saved Diego's life. His other brother, William, actually he had some of his bone marrow removed to go to Diego because Diego was suffering from cancer. And that was able to save Diego's life. And so it was actually Diego's second time going through a bone marrow transplant.
No kidding.
And so the family stayed with us for, over a month, about 45 days. And that was just significant because they mentioned too, hey, if we weren't this close to the hospital, there's no way we could be able to get this treatment.
Just to put this in perspective for us, so for an average stay, most families, how long do they stay?
So an average family stay is 29 nights.
29
so you think about
nights.
a month, basically.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I probably don't know anyone that could afford
Correct.
to just take off work in a spontaneous moment, not planned, because
Correct.
these things are not planned, let's face it.
Right.
So an unplanned event, 1 month, staying at a hotel, eating,
Right.
so not just one person,
Right.
but an
Multiple
entire
people.
family.
Correct.
To just up and do this for an entire month. That's a huge expense.
It is, and we value our services at $100 a month. Again, it's free for families, but that's for us to house you and feed you and provide you with other support services. But when you think about, the areas we're in, right on the hospital campus, so downtown Tampa and downtown St. Pete, that number would probably be much more expensive than $100 to be housed and fed.
100%.
So,
and with summers being your busiest time of year, that's also a very busy year for these areas too.
Correct.
To have tourists come in. I
Correct.
mean, you've got several theme parks
Right.
in very close proximity to our area. So it's a destination to be had.
It is, for sure. And even if you do that math of the average stay, that's roughly $3,000 that someone would have to spend, like you mentioned, a drop of a hat to be housed, fed, and taken care of amongst any other expenses they have.
So it just really puts it in perspective how important it is for a donation from viewers like you at home, for example. So I know several times I hear from people, it's like, oh gosh, I would love to help out. I've only got $10.
Right.
Talk to me about what $10 donation will do.
A $10 donation, well, one, it will actually provide a meal for families in our houses, which is huge. And actually, as we're going through this year, one of the things we're doing is that the Tampa Bay Rays are gracious enough to actually double any monthly donations that take place. So if a donor wants to say, hey, I want to give $10 monthly, the Rays will match that first
Oh, no
gift.
kidding. That's incredible. $10. That's a Starbucks. Come on, people. $10 can feed a family member a day. My goodness. You can log onto their website, rmhctampabay.org, and make your donation there. Or if you'd rather do a text and make it quick and simple, well, text RMHC to 44321, 44321. Really simple. $10 can feed someone for a day. You never know when you might be in those shoes, so keep that in mind as you're scrolling through the website. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Bayside. I'm your host, Shelley Sanders, speaking with Joe Citro, all about the Ronald McDonald House Charities and all the amazing things that they're doing for families in need here in the Bay Area and all the way to even internationally, I should say, because you never know when the doctor that you need for your child is where they're gonna be, and then oftentimes it's here. So, Joe, we could sit here for another 3 hours and talk
Sure.
about all the amazing
course.
things that you do and all the things that you need. I'm sure there's wish lists. I'm sure there's 100,000
Yeah.
stories. My goodness, 500 meals a day.
Yeah.
That puts it into perspective. A day, I can't even. Sometimes I feel like my 4 meals a day,
Sure.
like 3 meals a day, or a week, if for that matter, is a little overwhelming. I can't imagine being in your shoes. So let's talk a little bit about how, first of all, I gotta think that some people may think, I don't know, that's for that child and they've got this. My child isn't as sick, or
Sure.
what's the criteria there? And then what is the process?
Yeah, so what I would say, it's really for any family that needs medical treatment, life-changing medical treatment. And so for some of our families, that's simple as, let's say, a one-night stay because of a sleep study for a rare condition they might have.
Right.
To, like I mentioned, the Dulé family, which is a rare specialty, where they're with us for 6 months.
Right.
Our longest stay actually consecutively is a family from Bolivia. They've been with us now for about 2.5 years.
Oh, wow. No
Yeah.
kidding.
But to your point, how does a family kind of hear about us? And so usually when families come here, they're going to meet with their social worker at the hospital. And the hospital will say, hey, do you have a place to stay? Do you know of any relatives nearby? Especially in our case, most of our families are premature births. And so it's unexpected. And they kind of rush here. And they work with the social worker to then say, no, we don't have a place to stay. And the social worker says, I'm going to refer you to stay at the Ronald McDonald House. And then they do that type of paperwork. We verify things on our side. And then if we have a room there, we will gladly house them for as long as they need.
Gotcha. So it just goes from there. So the hospitals are generally the ones that walk you through that process. Let's talk about back to, because it's astounding the numbers that you see.
Sure.
500 meals a day.
Right.
Again, I mean, you're serving over 2,000 families a year.
Right.
That's a lot, and you cannot do this. It's not free to you. It's free to those that benefit from your services, but it costs a lot.
It
so
does.
80% of your annual budget comes from community donations. Are there other ways to get involved? Say, for example, if someone's like, I don't have a whole lot of money, but I do have time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll mention the other 20% too is the McDonald's funding that we get is really coming from the McDonald's customers. And so to your point about dropping change to the donation boxes, those funds come to us locally.
Right.
So that's the kind of where that other percentage is. And to your point about getting involved, there's very simple ways. You mentioned a wish list that we have. That's a great way to get involved and just pick up some items. There's also another amazing way, which is really kind of getting hands-on, and that's actually cooking a meal. And so throughout COVID, we were actually paying for meals, which was a significant cost. We were spending about $7,000 a month on food, to your point about the volume.
Right.
But we're now open to having community groups come in and actually make a meal. And so it's very simple. You grab the ingredients. You can grab family, friends, coworkers, whoever you want. Sign up online. And
If you have the will, you'll have the way to make it happen. All right, so get creative, bottom line, my Tampa Bay people. So you can log on to the website that you're looking at right now. That's rmhctampabay.org, rmhctampabay.org. You can also text if you'd like to just go directly to making a financial donation. Text RMHC to 44321. Either way, get out and get involved. We'll be back after this. As always, I want to thank you at home for joining us this week on Bayside. And of course, Joe, thank you so much for being here and enlightening us again on everything that Ronald McDonald House Charities is doing here in the Bay Area. Now, for you at home, I tell you every week to get out, get involved in your community in one way or another. I can't think that this isn't a fabulous way to do that. You can always log onto their website, rmhctampabay.org, to figure out how you can get involved. And if you'd like to just make a financial donation, quick and easy, text RMHC to 44321.